Hey, what's going on, everyone? I'm Eric Muldrow, and this is my WalkAway story. Typical upbringing as a black man here in America, as a young black person here in America, you're basically led to believe that the Democratic Party is the party for you, that the Republican Party or the conservative view, because I don't necessarily classify myself as a Republican per se, I classify myself as a conservative. I obviously fall more in line with the Republican platform, the platform primarily. Anyway, throughout the course of my life, I just did as I was told. We voted Democrat. And when I did vote, which was pretty inconsistently, I did vote as a Democrat. Throughout my adult life, I'm professing to be a Christian man, but I'm basically living however I choose to, or your typical hypocrite, because I wouldn't even classify myself, looking back on it now, as ultimately being, I wouldn't classify myself as actually being born again at that time, because I was basically, there was no proof of it, there was no evidence in my life. I recall conversations I had with my dad about whether there would ever be a black president. My dad lived through Jim Crow, he lived through the civil rights era, and he died in 2003. But I can just recall many of the conversations we had over the years, a lot of the things that he saw. He saw colored bathrooms, white bathrooms, things that we talk about nowadays, and we try to compare the modern struggle with what those brave men and women went through back in the day. It's ludicrous to even make the comparison. But he was of the mindset, like most of us, that there would never be a black president here in the United States. My dad passed in 2003, as I said, and in 2008, when Obama was elected, I recall becoming very emotional at that time because something was happening that I never thought I would see. And I felt really proud of our country. I felt really proud as a nation to say we elected a black man. Now, I wasn't really deep into his policies and everything he stood for. To some degree, yes, but overall, I just went along because he was a Democrat. In 2010, the Lord really started working on my mind and my heart. And I started coming into a realization of how I was living, the fact that I was living a life that was contrary to the teachings of Scripture, contrary to the teachings of Jesus. And I was really convicted of my life, my sinful living. And the Lord ultimately saved me in 2010. Which led me to some really sound and solid biblical teachers who started challenging me on living a life that is consistent to what Jesus taught, what the apostles taught, the teachings of Scripture as a whole. And it caused me to just start evaluating my own life. The Bible teaches us to, as believers, to examine ourselves. And I truly started examining myself. I truly started examining myself for the first time, and which caused me to make some radical changes. I started examining belief systems that I had just in the world, which ultimately led me to really taking a hard look at my political stance, my party of affiliation. One of the main things that really drove me from the Democratic Party was that I started seeing my worldview, a worldview that is the foundation of modern science, biblical Christianity, the foundation of modern science, a worldview that played a massive role in the formation of our country. But I started seeing consistently my Christian views being cast aside and people like me being referred to as being homophobic or bigots and just some insane ideas. Newsflash, people, just because you disagree with someone doesn't mean you hate them. It doesn't mean that. But that, me even saying that mindset nowadays, people will look at me like as if I'm crazy just for saying that. Of course it does. You have to celebrate every aspect of someone's life. So I started seeing my view, and when it came to the life issue, my views as a Christian, when I started looking at the life issue, when I really started understanding with God, how he sees human life and how he cherishes it and man has no place to take it, it really caused me to start challenging my affiliation with the Democratic Party. And then I just started digging deeper. I started looking into the history. We're told over and over again how the Democrats were the party. There was a big switch, and I come to find out that that was just a complete and total fabrication. It wasn't true. And I just started seeing the ugly, dark history of the Democratic Party: slavery, Jim Crow, fighting and contending against every civil rights bill that was attempted to be passed. As time went on, it just got to the point to where it was a no-brainer, and I had no choice but to leave. And I was already on my way out. But just as I have looked at our as things are today, I had a over 20-year law enforcement career, corrections, prison system, a police trainer, firearms trainer, active shooter instructor, a pretty extensive one. What I've been noticing today is a push to separate and cause racial and ethnic division based on what the police do. Now, the vast majority of people that speak about the cops and evaluate and try to place a judgment on what cops do just do so from a place of ignorance. And I don't mean that as a knock or a mockery. They just aren't aware of the nuances, the danger zones, the threat. They're just unaware of the problems that a cop sees. Now, there are plenty of situations out there where cops have done wrong. And I think if a cop has violated someone's rights, they need to be punished even more severely. I'm not trying to minimize that whatsoever. But the vast majority of citizens just don't really understand the job. But I see this drive up and is politically motivated in most situations, to cause a division between the races. And I see the primary ones behind that has been the Democratic Party. And in a career field that I love and I've supported and I've given my blood, sweat, and tears to over the years, when I see it being mischaracterized in the public, and where all you see are the bad things that a police officer does or the questionable things that a police officer does, and it's always being done to a black man, I really see all that coming from the left. And I had already been on my way out of the Democratic Party, but that was the ultimate straw that truly snapped the camel's back to where I see the manipulation that's done. And now I know there are a lot of people out there. I have a lot of good friends that are Democrats and lean left, and I love them dearly. But I honestly think that their policies and their views are destructive to our society. The things that have happened in the black community with the welfare state and all the things that have come as a result of that have been harmful and been more harmful than good. So that is a very condensed story of my journey out of the Democratic Party. I do not look back. Now I've been blessed with an opportunity to share my story on social media and be bold with my perspective. Yeah, you can get a lot of hate, especially as a black man or a black person in general who's come to this view. But I would rather be alone and ostracized if it means that I'm on the side of truth and I'm on the side of right. So I'm open to friend requests. You guys can friend request me all you want. And I appreciate the opportunity that there are people out there who I know are in who I know disagree with me on different points. But we can come to an area, we can have a logical, a rational discussion where we don't see each other as being the quote unquote enemy. So thank you guys. Once again, I'm Eric Muldrow, and this was my WalkAway story.